Welcome, everybody. This is Matt Seefeld with MedEvolve. I'm excited to talk to you a little bit about streamlining revenue cycle management by really using analytics and workflow automation tools and techniques. A little background on myself. I've been with MedEvolve for a few years now. I've spent my entire career in healthcare revenue cycle consulting and technology development deployment. At MedEvolve, I am over all of our revenue cycle service operations. I also oversee our data science analytics departments, and I do oversee our business development as well. My focus has always been on process redesign, making sure people and process are aligned with technology, and then, of course, developing technology and deploying it to really improve the financial position of organizations. So before we dive in, I just want to express a couple of things. Half our business here at MedEvolve is revenue cycle services. And so it was important for us to have transparency to hold our clients accountable because it's a two-way street. It's not just making sure the revenue cycle company is doing the right things at the right time with the right action in mind. It's also making sure the clinic is as well, right? And we have objective, non-emotional conversations when we meet. So I used to always get questions about, well, we outsource our revenue cycle to you and our cash is going down, you're a bad vendor. It turns out it's a payer mix shift and the fact that you're not collecting patient deductibles prior to service. That's really caused the impact to cash flow. So transparency is important. The other thing that I'm going to talk about is workflow automation and how we have used it here at MedEvolve to take care of our revenue cycle clients, right? We built it for ourselves to make sure that our staff was efficient, but it's important that you're using tools, workflow automation. Ours is driven by artificial intelligence and machine learning and algorithms to make sure we're working the right accounts at the right time and getting the right outcome in mind. And so that's really, really important. When we look at the complexity of the revenue cycle today, you could put COVID here at the top now as well, right? We don't know what the potential net revenue loss is going to be. And so, obviously there's lots of fear of the unknown, which causes anxiety, which could cause poor decision-making if you're not prepared with the data and the analytics. I look at that. If you take COVID and you put it aside, we still have challenges, right? You've got your insurance companies that are paying us less now than they ever have, right? They're more delay tactics, more first pass denials for things that are usually overturned. So you question why they denied in the first place. And then you look at things like patient debt, the large amount of self-pay that's sitting out there on balance sheets now and account receivable is a challenge. But I think the other thing when we look at revenue cycle is the amount of redundancy and tasks that we have been doing for, in our case, years that didn't need to be done, or they could have been streamlined very easily. Making sure that our clients' money is processing correctly, making sure that we're taking risk mitigation very seriously when it comes to staff turnover. For us, we were really overstaffed. We weren't overstaffed based on the archaic tools we were using 2 years ago, but by inventing these new tools that have really streamlined our way we deliver services around revenue cycle, we've been able to reduce a lot of headcount, but we made sure that we could retain the best of the best, right? And we also have to make sure we incentivize the best of the best through bonus structures and things like that. At the end of the day, with no margin is no mission, right? If you don't have cash flow, you have no mission to do the things that you want to do. In terms of growth, let's look at your cost to collect and let's put some strategies in place and let's put some technology in place that gets your margin back so you don't have to make those decisions. Now, I talk about the tools that we've had to develop as a company. It really did start at home, literally. In April of 2018, our margin was gone. I was asked to take over our revenue cycle services organization, and I started asking questions. I started looking at the way workflows were designed. We were not a very automated company. We did a lot of things manual. Our reporting was very average at best. We were living in Excel spreadsheets and pivot tables, and you can't do that anymore. Like those tools have value to some extent, but big data and analytics now, and you can't be living month by month, query by query, pivot table by pivot table to try to figure out what's going on with your revenue cycle. I had no confidence at all that my staff were assigned correctly and that they were working effectively. So what did we do? We started to look at ways that we deliver our revenue cycle services. We looked at the people in our process. We, in a sense, re-recruited them, right? So we made sure that we broke out the revenue cycle in key areas. So I had my charge entry team, coding team. I had my billing team. You come in the morning and you get the claims out the door. That's what you do. You don't worry about anything else. My AR team was exactly that. They were AR collectors. They don't answer patient phone calls. They don't do a bunch of other random things, right? They focus on getting denials overturned. And then you've got your payment posters, and that's what they do. They post those payments, and you got your support team that helps with all those revenue cycle services, and then obviously a call center. We chose to actually outsource the call center to a group in Ohio. They've done an amazing job for us on that front. So at the end of the day, we had to do a lot of process redesign. We had to realign people. Some people didn't make the cut. If people are unwilling to do the job, yeah, you can't keep them on the team. If they're willing, but they're not capable and they don't have another place they could fit in the organization, you can't keep them on the team. Healthcare is a business and we got to treat it like as such. So then the last thing we did, which was probably the most important, was we developed the technology that would align with the people in the process. And that's where we've been able to get the results on our margin improvement. And that's where we have clients that are willing to talk about some of the services we deliver and the results they've gotten. One of the things that I asked my staff early on, when I took over, is I asked these questions. And if you're reading these questions right now, you should know the answers to these. There should be no, let me find out, I don't know. Now, I can tell you now, the answers I got here were all, I don't know. And that's a scary place to live when you manage 50 plus clients across the US and various surgical specialties such as orthopedics, urology, ophthalmology, gastro, and others, dermatology, et cetera. So these are dangerous questions if you don't know the answers to them. Okay, in today's world now, I do know. I know the answer to every one of these, and I know it real time. And that's an important piece of mind that I need as an executive overseeing this area, plus all my managers to have this at their fingertips as well. When you look at pre-redesign, I just talked about how we've done all this work, and you look at post, and these numbers are actually a little outdated too on the results. We've even improved much more than this. Is that you really see that transition, right? You see the transition of margin coming back. You see the transition of being able to reduce staff, but also deliver better service. Looking at overtime, we were spending so much overtime, a couple hundred hours a month before we did all this, and now we're barely at 25 to 40 on a given month, and that's usually because we've got backlogs and payment posting or charge entry. So one of the things that I talk about in terms of the AR management, because again, as a revenue cycle services vendor, we have to make sure that we're working actionable things, right? I can't have a lot of staff just touching accounts that don't require action. And so you need to have the abilities to have a workflow system, and maybe it's in your PM today, maybe there's bolt-ons out there. We built it as a cloud app, which can plug into lots of PMs. Obviously it integrates into our PM as well here at MedEvolve. But at the end of the day, you have to have the ability to carve out the nonsense, and this is a real case study of a large, complex urology group in the Northeast where, they came to me and they said, hey, I got 20,000 open claims. How many staff do I need? They were centralizing their business office operations. I said, well, geez, they're probably going to need at least like 10 to 12. That's a lot of claims to manage. I said, let's run it through this workflow solution that we developed that we've been using for 6 months, and let's see what pops out. Sure enough, about only 4,011 claims popped out as requiring action. And so at the end of the day, all they needed really to manage their revenue cycle on a database was about 3.2 FTEs, and they've even come down from there. So, it's important to know that when you carve out the nonsense, the things that don't require action, your staff levels will be appropriate. And that's really an important piece. Now, the next piece is making sure that staff are aligned correctly. What I mean by that is making sure that you have the appropriate number of claims assigned to people in their queues. Now, whether this is a coding queue, this happens to be an AR example, but it could be a coding queue, it could be a billing queue, payment posting queue, right? Is that you got to make sure that your staff are aligned correctly. If I've got somebody that's carrying 60% of the weight, there's no way they're going to get to that, right? I also need to understand what competency levels do we have here. Is this a high dollar representative? If so, then they're going to need less claims, right? There's going to be more complex surgeries to go after rather than someone that's doing more E&M code follow-up. And so you've got to make sure, and this is not a monthly recheck, like we look at this stuff weekly at a minimum, sometimes it's daily. So we're constantly looking at rebalancing our portfolios to make sure people are aligned correctly and they're not overwhelmed. At the same time, that they're not underwhelmed too. In terms of work, your workflow management system, whether it's built in your PM or it's a bolt-on, you've got to really minimize clicks. You shouldn't have to touch 10 different screens to get work done, right? If you need to correct a claim or refile a claim, it needs to be done on a single screen. If you need to look at your EOBs or claim filing histories, it's got to be right there for you. If you've got to update demographics, change the order of insurance, add information, it's got to be right there. Right. At the same time as you have to capture information about the claim. I ask clients all the time, I say, hey, how do you track follow-up? They say, well, we have folks that get credit for every time they work a claim. I say, well, how do you do that? I say, oh, well, they'll tag an account, or when they put a note in the system, a free text note in the system, then we count that as work. And I said, well, you can't report on notes, right? That's unstructured data. And so what we do here, which I highly recommend you guys look at for your own workflow systems, is go ahead and have them put in structure, right? And put an activity in there. What did you do? I contacted the insurance company. Well, what did they tell you? What's the status, right? It's in HIDAR review. What did you do about it? Well, you submitted a request for documents to the payer. And then you can type your free text note in over here, to the right. But what you've just done on these drop downs here is you now allow reporting. So if a doctor comes and says, hey, what's the status of my AR? You actually can tell them in real time what the status of the AR. It also helps with quality reviews. I mean, to be able to do quick quality reviews to see the statuses and the actions people are doing off a status can be really, really powerful. Productivity, we talked a little bit about productivity. We're going to talk more about outcomes because I think that's more important nowadays than ever. But yes, you've got to be able to measure productivity of your staff. You have to see how they're comparing week over week, how they compare to their peers that are doing similar tasks. A lot of this is about accountability. I'll tell you, the folks that remained on our team, they love this because they have a little competition amongst themselves and their teammates. And we actually have an incentive-based revenue cycle where we actually compensate people because we have access to real-time data with the outcomes they're getting. We can actually bonus folks each month when they hit their milestones. And that's been a huge win for our staff here at MedEvolve. I talked a little bit about being able to see the status of your AR, right? So in this example, those status codes that people are selecting now in your workflow system can now be reportable, right? So instead of saying Sally worked 71 claims last week for 1.9 million in AR balance for $500,000 in cash value, you can say, well, 31 are in code review, 20 are in claim not on file of payer. Let's look at those 20. So we can drill down right here and say, well, why weren't they on file? What can I change upstream in terms of process to get them on file the first time? And then really the most important part of looking at analytics around staff production is the outcome. When we launched these, behaviors changed quickly. We know when you're working, we know how you're working, and most importantly down here is we know how effective you are. And so it doesn't matter if you work 80 claims a day, if only one gets a positive outcome, that's a problem. And so we start looking at things like average actions that are being taken to get an insurance payment. Why are some folks at 2.1? Why are some folks at 1.4? Are there things that the 1.4 could teach the 2.1 person? So it's training awareness and things like that. So you got to know the effectiveness of your staff. And that's really, really, really important. Right now, it is so critical to understand how effective your folks are because you don't have extra cash flow to waste. You don't have it, especially now with this whole Corona thing. I mean, when you come back out of this, you've got to protect every dollar in good revenue, and you got to have a very lean cost to collect. We talk about revenue clarity a lot here at MedEvolve. It's not a luxury anymore. It used to be, right? 10 years ago, 20 years ago, it was what it is. You still got good reimbursements coming through from insurance, but now it really is, right? It is an imperative to have. The technologies are out there. Big data has been around for, decades, but in healthcare, it's been a popular phrase on billboards at the big, trade shows for over 10 years, actually coming up on 15 years now. AI is a buzzword now. We do employ AI into our workflow automation suite, mainly because it helps us make sure our folks are working efficiently, right? It helps our clients that do use our AI workflow suite. They want to make sure their folks are working effectively. Making sure that you can leverage data to streamline operations, right? If you've got to make decisions with your organizations, you have to have data to back it up. And that's important here. If you're an executive, you don't have the time to ask for information and start analyzing report after report after report. It needs to be brought to you as a story, right? Something you can digest quickly, like I always say, over a cup of coffee, and know when you have to ask questions and take action. I want you all to spend your time designing action plans, getting results, not trying to mine data and information. Sadly, in this day and age, it's usually the inverse. People spend most of the month trying to mine information, leaving almost no time to enact change. When I think about standing out from the crowd nowadays, we're looking at PM systems to me, and we do half our business is practice management. We interface with hundreds of EMRs, every single day to deliver a revenue cycle for our clients. But look, it's a data warehouse, right? The functions are occurring in the PM, but it's capturing data. It's what you do with the data, though, that really does separate leading practices from the rest. I really do believe that. But you have to have tools that can grab that data, normalize it, and get it in the digestible format to you in near real time. I think that when you look at KPIs, key performance indicators, it is important to really understand the industry benchmarks. I think it's also important to look at the KPIs that tell a story together. It's not just looking at a charge report. It's not just looking at a payment report. It's not just looking at AR. Like, you've got to be able to triangulate KPIs together. Like in our scorecard, we read it as a story left to right. And the intent there is for people to make informed decisions based on a lot of different data coming from a lot of different angles. So if your AR is going up on the self-pay side, then we should start to be able to see your net collection ratio going down because you've got higher self-pay balances going up. And if you start to see more patients being scheduled where they have prior bills not being collected, you would start to make the assumption that that would be going up. And then you also probably start seeing bad debt write-offs because you're not collecting a lot of that age self-pay debt. So it's a long way of saying, look, you got to be able to look at a lot of different angles. But again, you can't look at this one at a time. You got to put these variables together and tell your revenue cycle story. And the providers really, in my experience, really love this because then they start to be less emotional. They start to be more informed on their decisions and the impact to the business, and they can make constructive decisions. So again, we appreciate the time. We try to produce good content for you all. We try to make sure that there's good thought leadership in there. If you have questions about this webinar or any other webinars that we do, or any of the types of services or technology we offer, please reach out. Our contact information is here on this slide. So again, we really appreciate it. Thank you again for joining us.